Night, Washington, D.C. Gas lamps flicker along the street. Their light trembles in the spring air. Carriages roll past brick buildings, wheels splashing through shallow puddles. The city feels different tonight, lighter, relieved. For the first time in years, people walk without looking over their shoulders. For the first time in years, they believe the killing is finished. Inside Ford's Theater, every seat is full. The audience laughs together, not politely, not nervously. They laugh like people who think the worst has passed. A man moves through the aisle. He keeps his head low. He does not rush. He knows where he is going. No one stops him. No one questions him. He belongs here, or at least he looks like he does. In his coat pocket, something hard presses against his palm. Cold metal, smooth grip. A small gun rests quietly against his leg. Outside these walls, church bells will soon ring in celebration. Flags will fly. Speeches will be written. The war was already ending. This wasn't part of the plan. And yet, this moment will decide how America remembered everything. Silence. The man pauses near the stairs. The laughter swells again, right on cue. A joke lands on stage. The timing is perfect. He places one foot on the step, then another. The wood creaks softly beneath his weight. Above him, a candlelit balcony overlooks the stage. Velvet curtains frame it. Gold trim catches the light. Inside that box sits the most powerful man in the country. He leans forward in his chair. His shoulders look lighter tonight, less burdened. Beside him, his wife smiles. For months, this room has been guarded. Tonight, it feels relaxed, too relaxed. What happens next is known everywhere, but the reason it happens now is rarely asked. The man reaches the landing. He stops, listens. The laughter explodes again, louder this time. He adjusts his coat. His hand finds the pistol without looking. Single shot, close range, no second chance. Outside the theater, people believe the country is whole again. They believe the bloodshed has finally reached its end. They believe the future has been secured. Inside, history stands at the edge of something it cannot undo. The war had nearly finished its work. What followed would reshape its meaning. The man steps towards the door. A guard stands nearby, but he turns away, just for a moment. That moment is enough. The door opens slowly. The stage lights glow. The laughter peaks. This wasn't chaos. It was precise. Then, no gunshot. Not yet. Because before the sound echoes through this room, before the crowd screams, before the nation freezes in shock, we have to ask one question. How does a country survive 4 years of war only to face its most defining moment after the fighting is supposed to be over? This is not just the story of battles and generals. It is not merely a timeline of dates, uniforms, and casualty figures. It is the story of how a young nation, founded on competing ideals, came dangerously close to destroying itself, and how the decisions made during that struggle still shape the United States today. It is a story of ambition and fear, of compromise and miscalculation, of people who believed they were defending their way of life, even as they pushed the country to catastrophe. For 4 years, Americans would fight one another with an intensity never before seen on this continent. And when the fighting finally stopped, the nation that emerged would be profoundly changed, politically, socially, and morally. This is the entire history of the American Civil War.
If you're still listening and watching right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. Please subscribe to Through the Pasts, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue. The United States in the mid-19th century is a nation of contrasts. From the outside, it looks unstoppable. Cities hum with industry. Rivers carry cotton, timber, and steel. Trains connect towns that a generation ago would have taken weeks to reach. On paper, the country seems unstoppable, expanding steadily westward and upward at a pace that rivals the old European empires. But beneath this surface of progress, tension coils like a spring. Two economies grow in parallel, almost independent of each other. The North industrializes rapidly, factories churning out textiles, locomotives, iron, and tools. Immigrants from Germany and Ireland flood the streets of Boston, Philadelphia, and New York, filling workshops and rail yards. Wages are low, conditions dangerous, but ambition and opportunity draw them in. Life in the North is messy, loud, chaotic, but it is a life built on the idea that skill and effort can create change. Meanwhile, in the South, wealth flows from the land and the labor of enslaved people. The cotton economy dominates. Plantations stretch for miles. Families live in grand brick homes or wooden mansions, confident in the permanence of their lifestyle. Social hierarchies are rigid. Power is measured in land and human property. Southern planters see the system as self-sustaining, almost divine. It has always been this way, and it always will be. Families feel the divide long before politicians acknowledge it. Consider the Jeffersons of Charleston. Mr. Jefferson oversees 500 acres of cotton. He rises before sunrise, checks on the fields, speaks to the overseer, inspects the enslaved workers laboring under the weight of summer heat. He is confident. Slavery is eternal. The law protects it. The economy requires it. Life itself seems to affirm it. Hundreds of miles away, in Philadelphia, a young man named Samuel works in a textile mill. His hands are raw, his back sore from 12-hour shifts. He does not care about distant plantations. Slavery feels abstract. His worry is rent, food, survival. Politics is noise. He has a vote, yes, but it has little meaning in the rhythm of his daily life. In Washington, Congress mirrors the tension of the nation, but with more theatrics. Henry Clay and Daniel Webster debate endlessly. Bills are proposed, amended, rejected, amended again. Slavery is the elephant in the room, present in every conversation, yet never named with the urgency it deserves. Compromises are crafted and recrafted, designed to maintain the balance between free states and slave states. The Missouri Compromise, the Compromise of 1850, these are temporary fixes, fragile scaffolding holding a house that is slowly rotting from within. But even these compromises cannot quiet the friction. In the Senate, voices rise, insults are exchanged, and for the first time, threats of secession are openly discussed. Southern senators warn that any infringement on their rights will be met with withdrawal. Northern representatives argue that slavery's expansion threatens liberty itself. The pressure intensifies in everyday life. Letters pass between friends and relatives living in different states. Families quietly split by belief. Brother against brother, cousin against cousin, neighbor against neighbor. One letter might discuss a new factory in Massachusetts. Another letter describes a new plantation expansion in Georgia. Conversations that once revolved around the weather or crops now inevitably drift toward the future of slavery and the fate of the Union. In small towns across the country, newspapers report on debates in Washington with ever-increasing alarm. Editorials in New York condemn Southern arrogance. Papers in Charleston portray Northern interference as tyranny. People are reading the same facts, seeing the same events, but interpreting them entirely differently. The country is moving toward confrontation, and few notice. The tension reaches a climax in 1857 when the Supreme Court delivers its ruling in the Dred Scott case. Chief Justice Roger Taney declares that African Americans, whether enslaved or free, are not citizens and have no right to sue in federal court. More importantly,
He rules that Congress cannot prohibit slavery in the territories. In the South, the ruling is celebrated. Slavery is protected. It has legal backing. Planters believe their system is invincible. Jefferson and other Southern leaders read the decision and see confirmation of what they have always known. Their way of life is eternal, their power secure. In the North, the reaction is shock. Abolitionists and moderates alike recognize that compromise is no longer possible. Lincoln reads the ruling carefully. He is a former congressman, a lawyer, a man who has been studying the law and its implications for years. He understands that the decision has made the sectional conflict inevitable. If slavery can spread unchecked, then the balance in Congress, the delicate agreements between states, the compromises painstakingly crafted over decades, all of it is meaningless. From this point forward, the country begins to unravel. Political parties fracture, the Whigs disappear. The Democrats split along sectional lines. The newly formed Republican Party, with Lincoln as a rising star, positions itself explicitly against the expansion of slavery. Southern leaders interpret Lincoln's rise as a threat. Every victory for the North is a threat to their way of life. Every concession is a betrayal to those who believe slavery is sanctioned by God and law alike. Meanwhile, the human cost is quietly mounting. Families are already fractured. Young men debate joining militias. Communities are riven by ideological differences that were once ignored. In towns like Lawrence, Kansas, violence erupts as settlers clash over whether the territory will allow slavery. Newspapers describe shootings, stabbings, and burnings. The term "bleeding Kansas" enters the public lexicon. It is no longer political debate, it is war by another name. Even as these events unfold, life continues in ordinary ways. Samuel in the textile mill works, dreams, survives. Jefferson checks the cotton crop, manages his finances, teaches his children to read and write. Both men are caught in systems far larger than themselves. Both are participants in a story whose end they cannot see. The country marches toward its point of no return, and no one realizes it. Political maneuvering, legal rulings, and economic interests create a tension that is invisible to the casual observer, but irresistible to history. By late 1850s, the cracks have become visible. Violence in the territories, heated debates in Congress, Supreme Court rulings, all of these are symptoms of a larger problem. The moral and political framework that has held the Union together for 70 years is failing. In homes and in halls of power, people begin to whisper that the nation is on the brink. Some hope that compromise can still work, others prepare for separation, and a few, like Lincoln, understand that war is coming whether anyone admits it or not. The Dred Scott decision is the defining moment of this act. It crystallizes the impossibility of compromise. It forces both sides to acknowledge that the structures that have maintained balance, the compromises, the laws, the political maneuvering, cannot contain the conflict any longer. From this point forward, the United States moves inexorably toward disunion. The Southern planter grows more confident that secession is justified. The Northern worker begins to sense that slavery may be more than a distant concern. It is a threat to the nation itself.
The election of Abraham Lincoln in November 1860 was more than a political victory. To the South, it was a signal of danger, a signal that the fragile agreements keeping the Union together were fraying beyond repair. In Charleston parlors, Richmond offices, and Savannah drawing rooms, Southern elites whispered that the time had come to act. They spoke cautiously, aware that words carried weight, but the sentiment was unanimous. Lincoln's presidency threatened their way of life. In the North, the mood was entirely different. Citizens, journalists, and even politicians treated the election as a routine political moment. Many assumed the South would grumble, perhaps threaten to secede, but that the nation could weather whatever objections arose. Newspapers promised that any military conflict, should it come, would be brief, a 90-day war, some called it, a skirmish that might last a few months at most. but they misunderstood one thing. It wasn't about Lincoln. It wasn't really about states' rights. It was about the very future of the country and the impossible choices that had been avoided for decades. In the South, preparation was quiet but deliberate. South Carolina, the first state to secede, held secret meetings. State officials drew up plans for taking federal property. Militias drilled in forests and fields. Small arsenals were reinforced. Every action was cloaked in the language of legality, yet the intent was unmistakable. Separation was coming, and soon. Other southern states watched carefully. Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas followed South Carolina, not in panic, but in cold calculation. Each state weighed its economy, its social order, and its pride. For these leaders, the Union was no longer an institution to be cherished. It was a cage that threatened to strangle their sovereignty. Meanwhile, in Washington, a city already exhausted by political tension, there was profound disbelief. President-elect Lincoln, who would not take office until March, was still only a name to many in the capital. Congress debated whether force should be used to prevent secession or whether compromise could be reached one last time. Cabinet members disagreed quietly in hallways. Newspapers in the capital, reflecting national confidence, described the looming crisis as a political disagreement rather than an existential threat. Few realized that the North was underestimating the gravity of the moment and the South was overestimating its flexibility. Human perspectives help us understand the growing tension. In Charleston, a wealthy planter named Edward Rutledge watches the approach of Union warships in the harbor. He knows that if the federal government attempts to hold Fort Sumter, confrontation is inevitable. He also knows that many of his neighbors are itching to act. Rutledge is careful, deliberate, measured, but he is also confident. To him, the war that might come will be short. The North cannot sustain a long fight. The South, he believes, holds the advantage in courage, in culture, in willpower. A few hundred miles north in Philadelphia, a journalist named Thomas Kane types furiously for the morning edition. Kane writes about the election as a matter of process. Lincoln's victory is historic, he admits, but Kane, like most of his colleagues, cannot imagine an actual war erupting. For him, the very idea that Americans would take up arms against one another is unthinkable. A civil war is impossible. Surely reason will prevail. The illusion of control was universal. Everyone believed they understood what was coming. Newspapers across the country reflect this misplaced confidence. The New York Tribune, one of the most widely read papers in the North, predicts the Union will survive intact and that any confrontation will be resolved in weeks. In Charleston, the Charleston Mercury reports that southern states will act if provoked, but suggests that the federal government will hesitate. Editorials, essays, and letters to the editor debate politics, law, and morality, but none fully anticipate the magnitude of the crisis that is about to unfold. The public narrative assumes rational actors, compromises, and diplomacy, but the reality is starkly different. Behind closed doors, Southern leaders are preparing for the first shots. Militias are mobilized, cannons are positioned, supplies are stockpiled. Plans are written in secret, shared only among those with the most trust. Every day the tension thickens. In Washington, Lincoln and his advisors do not fully grasp the depth of Southern determination. The incoming president understands that secession is a direct threat, but he also hopes to avoid war. He believes careful negotiation, symbolic displays of federal power, and patience can preserve the Union without firing a single shot. For him, prudence is paramount.
Meanwhile, his opponents, radical secessionists and moderate politicians alike, assume that Lincoln's cautious approach is weakness. They anticipate hesitation, believing it will allow the South to act first, to secure federal properties and control local militias. This wasn't about Lincoln, it was about centuries of tension coming to a head in a single moment. In the months following Lincoln's election, Washington becomes a city on edge. Soldiers drill in barracks, federal agents carry messages across cobblestone streets, couriers deliver confidential notes to governors. Newspapers report on secession votes, militia deployments, and the precarious state of forts and arsenals. Every headline hints at uncertainty. Every paragraph raises questions about what the government will do next. At the same time, ordinary citizens continue their routines. Shopkeepers open their stores, clerks shuffle papers in offices, children play in the streets. Life goes on as if nothing is wrong. Yet underneath, the nation teeters on the brink. Each routine action, each normal day, is a temporary pause before inevitable violence. Across the South, state governments quietly begin to claim federal forts within their borders. Forts in Louisiana, Alabama, and Florida are surrounded by local militias. In Charleston, Fort Sumter remains under federal control, but tensions rise daily. Every night, sentries patrol the harbor, watching the guns and supplies amassed on shore. Confederate leaders discuss strategy in whispers, aware that the first shots could trigger events beyond anyone's control. Few noticed the calm was a lie. The nation's nerves were stretched to their limit. There is also a human dimension to the anticipation. Soldiers, both volunteers and militiamen, train rigorously, believing that any conflict will be brief. They expect victory within months. Letters home describe excitement, patriotism, and confidence. Families cheer the enlistment of sons and husbands, convinced that the North and South will clash briefly, resolve quickly, and then return to normal life. No one yet grasps that this war will endure for 4 long years, consuming entire generations. Even diplomats abroad underestimate the danger. European powers observing from a distance view the crisis as a local rebellion, expecting the United States to stabilize itself without lasting consequences. In London and Paris, newspapers report that any war would be a short disruption of trade rather than a profound national catastrophe. But the miscalculations are mutual. While the North underestimates the South's will to fight, the South also underestimates the industrial and demographic strength of the Union. Each side prepares for a short, decisive campaign, imagining that courage, honor, or leadership alone will determine the outcome. Neither anticipates the endurance, scale, and human cost of what is to come. They misunderstood one thing. This conflict was bigger than any one man, any single law, any political compromise. In Washington, the final days before conflict are tense yet deceptively calm. Federal officers inspect their positions. Lincoln's cabinet debates whether to reinforce forts in the South or wait for further provocations. Congress meets in closed sessions, discussing legal justifications for federal action. Ordinary citizens go about their routines, unaware that the nation is about to erupt into its most devastating crisis. Letters from soldiers, politicians, and citizens show the range of emotions: hope, fear, confidence, denial. Every person reacts differently, but all are caught in the same story, one that is about to explode in the most public and violent way imaginable. Finally, everything was set.
At dawn, in Charleston Harbor, cannons are pointed inward, leveled at the symbol of federal authority that refuses to surrender. Tension in the air is almost tangible. Sentries pace nervously along the ramparts. Officers whisper last instructions. Militiamen hold their positions, hearts pounding. The war begins not with grandeur, but with confusion. Bull Run, Virginia, July 21, 1861. Thousands of men march with optimism, certain that glory awaits them. Union soldiers, fresh from training camps, march in crisp lines under the hot summer sun. Southern militias, equally inexperienced, wait behind tree lines and fences. The air smells of heat and sweat, the grass scorched from artillery drills, the horizon humming with anticipation. Young men chatter nervously. Some sing songs of patriotism. Some whisper prayers. Few have seen a body die before. Fewer have ever witnessed a man bleeding onto the ground, crying for his mother. A teenage Union soldier, barely 16, grips his rifle like a lifeline. He joined because he believed war would be an adventure. He imagined heroism, medals, parades. He had never fired a weapon in anger. He had never been shot at. Today, all illusions vanish in a haze of smoke and terror. What followed was worse than anyone expected. The first volleys of musket fire tear through the morning calm. Screams mix with the whistle of bullets. Horses rear in panic. Cannons roar with thunder that shakes the earth. The teenage soldier freezes. His friends fall beside him. Some scream, some cry, some run blindly. The orderly battle he imagined is replaced by chaos, confusion, and fear. Meanwhile, in northern homes, mothers clutch letters from sons at camp. Each word is carefully composed to reassure, to project courage. One mother reads aloud a passage describing the excitement of marching toward Virginia. Her hands tremble. She cannot know that by the next letter, the boy she loves may already be dead. She does not yet know that thousands of families across the country will experience the same crushing uncertainty. Bull Run collapses under the weight of reality. Retreat becomes rout. Soldiers flee in panic, trampling friends and comrades. Commanders shout, struggle to restore order, but discipline fails. Union troops spill into the countryside, abandoning cannons, supplies, and their illusions of a short war. They had never seen death like this, and they would never unsee it. Months later, the reality of industrial-scale warfare becomes undeniable at Shiloh, April 6th, 7th, 1862. The Tennessee countryside is transformed into a landscape of horror. Dense forests conceal artillery. Rivers and streams become blood-stained channels. Soldiers, once confident and clean, are mud-streaked, exhausted, and bleeding. Smoke obscures the sun. The smell of gunpowder mingles with the stench of bodies. At Shiloh, thousands die in a single day. Young men, teens and 20s, are struck down. They collapse into the mud, calling for mothers who cannot come. Officers cry out orders that will never be obeyed. And yet, the battle continues, relentless. One teenage Confederate soldier, barely 17, crawls behind a fallen tree. He holds a musket that has already claimed 2 friends. He vomits from fear. A cannonball shatters the air nearby. He sees a comrade ripped apart, and instinct overwhelms reason. He survives, but only barely. The sight will haunt him for the rest of his life. What followed was worse than anyone expected, and no one was prepared for the human cost. Letters attempt to capture reality.
but words fail. One mother in Ohio receives a note from her son at Shiloh. "All is well. The men are cheerful. We march tomorrow." That letter is a lie, whether by intent or by delay. The next report she receives names him among the dead. She cries, screams, rips the paper in two. Her grief is mirrored in thousands of homes across the nation. The emotional toll of this industrialized carnage is just beginning. They had never seen death like this, and they had no way to prepare for it. Lincoln observes the mounting carnage from Washington. He receives reports daily, maps with red marks showing where blood has soaked the earth. Telegraphed messages arrive with casualty counts, often incomplete or inaccurate, but terrifying nonetheless. The president realizes that the conflict is not a short skirmish. It is not a series of isolated battles that will fade with the seasons. It is an all-consuming, nation-shaking war that will demand sacrifices beyond what the Constitution or precedent had prepared him for. And this forced a decision Lincoln had been avoiding. As the war escalates, both sides struggle to comprehend its scope. Generals make mistakes in leadership. Supply lines fail. Soldiers suffer from disease as much as from bullets. Shiloh, Fredericksburg, Antietam, all battles reveal the terrifying scale of modern warfare. What once could be imagined as gallant clashes of swords and honor now becomes a grinding machine of death. Zoom in again. A young Confederate private writes in his journal, "I have seen men fall by the dozens. I cannot stop seeing it. I cannot stop smelling it. I do not know why God has left us here." His words, simple and human, reflect a truth that cannot be contained by strategy or ideology. What followed was worse than anyone expected, and it forced the entire nation to reckon with its own mortality. By the summer of 1862, the romantic illusions of war, the idea that courage alone ensures victory, are shattered. Northern soldiers recognize that victory is as much about logistics and numbers as heroism. Southern troops see that bravery cannot compensate for industrial disadvantage. Civilians reading reports in newspapers or receiving letters home realize that the war is personal, intimate, and relentless. The battles are no longer stories of heroism alone. They are stories of loss, confusion, and unanticipated consequences. Families grieve, communities fracture, and the very foundation of the nation trembles. Each day brings new battles, new horrors. At Antietam, Maryland, September 17, 1862, the dead are counted in thousands in a single day, far more than any single battle in European conflicts that Americans studied. Soldiers on both sides stagger through cornfields and orchards, shells whistling overhead, musket smoke choking vision and lungs. The teenage soldier, now hardened by Shiloh, walks among the wounded, sees friends dismembered, and begins to understand the cruel mechanics of war. He will survive, but the boy who believed in glory is gone. They had never seen death like this, and the nation would never be the same. Lincoln, watching these reports, comes to a terrifying realization. To preserve the Union, he must take steps that will forever alter the social and economic structures of the South. He cannot simply ask for compromise. He cannot rely on diplomacy alone. And this forced a decision Lincoln had been avoiding. By issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, he begins to reshape the war into something more than a fight to restore the Union. It becomes a moral and ideological struggle, a war that will challenge the very foundation of Southern society. By now, every corner of the country feels the impact. Women run homes without sons or husbands. Children grow up with tales of death and loss. factories strain to produce rifles and ammunition. Rivers carry wounded soldiers to makeshift hospitals. Every field, every town, every state becomes part of the war. What followed was worse than anyone expected, and no single person could control it. The scale of destruction, both human and material, becomes staggering. Entire counties in Tennessee, Virginia, and Mississippi are devastated. Farms burned, cities occupied, rivers clogged with debris, crops destroyed, families left destitute. The industrial age war that Americans had romanticized in theory now arrives in all its grim reality. Soldiers write letters home describing what they cannot convey in words. The screams of the dying, the horror of mangled bodies, the silent terror of watching friends fall in front of them. Civilians read these letters and are left to imagine the rest.
The year is 1862. The battles rage on. The fields of Virginia, Tennessee, and Mississippi are soaked with blood. Thousands of soldiers lie broken. Thousands more march into the unknown. Lincoln watches reports, calculates casualties, weighs the human cost, and realizes that simply preserving the Union is no longer enough. The war must become more than a struggle to restore political order. This wasn't freedom, not yet. Lincoln sits alone, staring at a map of the Confederacy. The lines drawn on the paper feel arbitrary. Rivers, roads, towns, all seem insignificant against the scale of suffering he reads about in daily reports. He knows that if the war continues as it has, it will end in destruction, but also leave the moral stain of slavery untouched. A decision forms in his mind, one that will transform the purpose of the war, the Emancipation Proclamation. The words will not immediately free all enslaved people, but they will change the meaning of every battle, the stakes of every engagement, and the consciousness of a nation. But it changed everything. In the Deep South, enslaved people watched the distant sounds of cannon fire with a mixture of fear and hope. They have heard whispers from the North, a war that might end slavery. Some cling to skepticism, some dare to dream. At night, families slip from their cabins into the darkness, carrying what little they can. Children cry softly. Elders whisper instructions. Every step is a risk. Slave catchers, patrols, and the fear of retribution are constant, yet every step is also a step toward life, toward a possibility of dignity, toward the unknown that promises something better than bondage. A young man, formerly enslaved, grips a rusty rifle given to him by Union soldiers in the border states. He has never held a weapon before. The weight is unfamiliar. His hands shake. Yet he knows that this rifle is more than a tool. It is a ticket to participation in history. This wasn't freedom, not yet. Union commanders are unprepared. Thousands of escaped enslaved people arrive at camps seeking protection. There are no clear rules for how to treat them. Some officers see them as laborers. Some fear logistical strain. Supplies are already stretched thin. Disease is rampant. Yet the moral significance is undeniable. Lincoln's proclamation transforms the war into a moral cause. Soldiers, now aware of the stakes beyond state lines, begin to understand that they are fighting not only for the preservation of the Union, but for the possibility of freedom itself. And it guaranteed the war would never truly end cleanly. Black regiments begin to form. The 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, among the first African-American regiments, trains in the North. Their officers are white, but the courage belongs to the men themselves. Every day, the soldiers drill, shoulder rifles, and imagine the battles ahead. They know the stakes are existential. They fight not only for the Union, but for recognition of their humanity. They fight knowing that even victory might not earn them full acceptance. Families watch, hoping that these men will return alive. Some never do.
A formerly enslaved man named Robert receives orders to march. He looks at his hands, calloused now, once tied in chains, and lifts a rifle. The moment is profound. He is not yet free in the way he imagined, but the act of fighting signals a transformation, a claim on the future. But it changed everything. The South responds with fury. The idea of black soldiers fighting for the Union is intolerable. Propaganda inflames anger. Local newspapers depict these men as invaders, traitors, and unnatural fighters. Southern militias redouble their patrols. Laws are tightened. Punishments for escape are made harsher. Plantation owners, now facing the reality of mass departures of enslaved labor, scramble to protect their economic lifelines. Fields go unharvested. Crops rot. Families that had relied on enslaved labor for generations find themselves struggling to maintain control. The social order, once rigid and unquestioned, begins to crumble. And yet this change would alter every calculation of the war. In the midst of battle, black regiments prove their mettle. They march into smoke, face fire, and hold the line. Their courage is noted by officers and soldiers alike. The Confederate Army, shocked and enraged, fights with renewed brutality. Captured black soldiers are often executed or enslaved again, as Southern leaders attempt to intimidate others from joining the fight. Yet the Union soldiers, white and black, begin to see that the war has fundamentally transformed. The stakes are no longer abstract political considerations. They are tangible, moral, and existential. Every battle is now a test of not only strategy, but conscience. One soldier, formerly enslaved, fights in a battle in South Carolina. Smoke burns his eyes. He fires his rifle at soldiers who would once have treated him as property. He survives. His survival is a small, defiant victory. He will never again see himself as merely a tool of labor. He is a citizen, a soldier, a participant in history. This wasn't freedom, not yet. Lincoln observes from Washington the changes sweeping the war. He writes letters, consults generals, and debates with his cabinet. The cost of war is higher than ever. Casualties rise, supplies dwindle, morale wavers. Yet the moral imperative of emancipation gives him resolve. He understands that this decision will not end the war quickly. It will prolong suffering, anger, and resistance, but it will also redefine the Union. Without this act, victory would restore a country still dependent on slavery. With it, the war becomes not merely about territory or law, but about the future soul of the nation. But it changed everything. On plantations, enslaved people flee, finding their way north or to Union camps. Communities are disrupted, but human resilience shines. Mothers hide children in wagons or forests. Fathers guide small groups through swamps and rivers. Entire villages shift allegiance from survival under bondage to a life of self-determination. And it guaranteed the war would never truly end cleanly. While the war takes on moral significance, it also becomes more brutal. Battles are larger, casualties higher. Disease spreads in camps. Starvation and exposure claim lives even away from the battlefield. Civilians in border states face uncertainty, caught between armies and fleeing populations. Letters tell stories of hardship. A mother writing to her son who fights alongside black regiments. A soldier describing the first time he holds a rifle as a formerly enslaved man. A farmer whose fields are now empty, haunted by those who have fled and the soldiers marching through. They had never seen war like this, and the consequences would last generations. By the end of this act, the meaning of the Civil War has shifted. The conflict is no longer simply about the Union. It is about freedom, equality, and moral reckoning. Every battle, every regiment, every march into enemy territory now carries weight beyond strategy. Black soldiers, once denied the right to fight, prove themselves indispensable. The Emancipation Proclamation signals to the world that the United States is entering a new era, even as the old world resists violently. The North, now fighting with a moral cause, gains international sympathy and legitimacy. Despite these transformations, the war is far from over. Lincoln and his generals understand that decisive battles, the ones that will truly determine the future, are still to come. Virginia, Tennessee, and Georgia will see carnage unlike anything yet experienced. The bloodiest fighting was still ahead. As the camera pans over maps of the Confederacy, dotted with towns, rivers, and fortresses, the weight of human lives, the scale of suffering, and the moral stakes press heavily. Every step forward is uncertain, every decision costly. The nation is remade under fire, and freedom has entered the war, but at a price yet fully realized.
By mid-1863, the Civil War had grown into something beyond anyone's initial imagination. It was no longer a series of battles or a political quarrel. It had become total war. Every corner of the nation felt its impact. Fields, towns, rivers, families, all were drawn into the struggle. The human, economic, and moral costs were staggering, and the stakes had never been higher. The morning is calm, deceptively calm. The rolling fields of Gettysburg shimmer in the summer sun. Birds chirp in the trees. Farmers tend to their crops. Children chase each other along dirt roads. And then, in the distance, the sound of marching men begins, a tremor that will shake the town, the state, and the nation. Union and Confederate armies collide with a force that no one has fully imagined. Over 3 days, the fields and hills become the epicenter of destruction. The crackle of musket fire, the roar of cannons, and the cries of wounded men create a cacophony that cannot be ignored. They had never seen death like this, and it would leave a scar on the nation that time could not erase. A Southern civilian woman named Mary Clark watches from the edge of a hill. She holds her infant close. Smoke rises from distant barns. Soldiers march past her home. She watches as her neighbors are forced from their property, their livestock seized, their gardens trampled. She knows the war is no longer a distant event. It is here, consuming everything familiar. In the fields, soldiers fall by the hundreds. They scream, they pray, they reach for comrades who are already gone. Union soldiers witness the same horrors. One young man from Massachusetts, writing in his journal, asks himself for the first time, is victory worth this cost? Peace would require destruction, and every act of survival came with a price. When the cannons finally fall silent, the battlefield is unrecognizable. Trees splintered, earth churned, and bodies strewn across miles of farmland. Survivors walk among the dead, searching for friends, officers, brothers. The smell of gunpowder and blood hangs in the air, mixing with the summer heat. In the small towns nearby, families attempt to resume life, but the devastation is visible everywhere. Homes commandeered by armies, fields trampled, barns burned. Letters arrive late, often misdirected or missing entirely. Mothers and fathers grieve sons, brothers, husbands. Some will never know where they fell. And the country would never fully forgive itself for the suffering inflicted.
April 1865. The guns have fallen silent. Smoke still lingers over Virginia's fields, but the deafening roar of battle is gone. Men who have spent years killing one another now stand in hesitant silence. Victory has arrived, but victory is not enough to heal a nation. The war was over. The morning is cool, the sky pale, almost indifferent to the momentous events unfolding below it. Confederate General Robert E. Lee rides to meet Union General Ulysses S. Grant. Soldiers on both sides line the dirt roads, tired, battered, uncertain of what comes next. Lee dismounts his horse, his uniform threadbare, his face lined with fatigue and sorrow. Grant, calm and deliberate, greets him without ceremony. The surrender is formal, but quiet. There are no parades, no triumphant fanfare, only the rustle of paper as agreements are signed, only the soft murmur of men who have been through hell and now stand together in the shadow of its end. A Union soldier watches Lee leave, feeling relief, exhaustion, and a strange unease. He fought for years to preserve the Union, and yet the faces around him are filled with grief, not joy. Something fundamental has changed. The war has ended, but the cost, the pain, and the divisions remain. Lincoln walks through the streets of Washington, considering the future of a fractured nation. His mind is full of plans to heal the South, to restore trust, to rebuild communities shattered by 4 years of relentless conflict. He believes in a United States that can emerge stronger, that can honor the sacrifices of soldiers and civilians alike. He drafts speeches and letters, consulting with advisors who share his hope, who see a possibility for reconciliation and for justice. He knows it will not be easy. He knows that old hatreds run deep. But Lincoln believes that through compassion and wisdom, the nation can rise from the ashes. A former enslaved man who fought in the 54th Massachusetts reads Lincoln's speeches aloud to other freedmen, hoping they signal a new era of equality. Yet, in his heart, he wonders whether words alone can erase centuries of oppression. Few people realized how fragile this hope would become. Across the South, life begins to adjust to the absence of war, but chaos lingers. Towns are destroyed. Families have lost their fathers, sons, brothers. Fields lay fallow, homes burned. Freedmen search for work and protection in a society that has not yet accepted their freedom. In northern cities, soldiers return home to find industries disrupted, neighborhoods housing refugees and displaced families. Both sides are exhausted. Both sides are mourning. Both sides are facing the monumental task of rebuilding a nation that had been literally and morally torn apart. The war was over, but the wounds remained open. Lincoln meets with cabinet members and political allies. The nation needs laws, policies, and protections. Reconstruction will require enforcement, oversight, and commitment. He sketches the outlines of what would become the 10% plan, allowing southern states to rejoin the Union once 10% of their voters pledged loyalty. He believes in leniency to foster reconciliation, but even as he plans, he senses the enormity of resistance, the depth of southern bitterness, and the fragility of his vision. Peace had no plan, no guarantee that the country would follow reason over revenge. April 14th, 1865. Ford's Theater is crowded, full of laughter and excitement. Audiences think they're safe, that the war is truly behind them. Music plays, actors rehearse their lines. Lincoln sits in the presidential box with Mary Todd by his side. The weight of leadership seems lighter tonight. There is a sense of relief, a hope that the nation can finally breathe. A man moves through the crowd, blending into the shadows. John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer and actor, carries a pistol hidden in his coat. He moves deliberately, eyes fixed on the president. And then, a single gunshot. Booth fires. The sound of the pistol cracks through the theater. Panic erupts. People scream. Chairs tip over. The actors on stage freeze, unsure what has happened. Lincoln slumps forward, wounded, and the audience realizes that even in victory, violence has not left the nation. The president is carried from the box. His life will end within hours. The shock spreads through Washington and the nation. The man who envisioned healing has been struck down. Mary Todd Lincoln screams, clutching her husband. Soldiers scramble. Doctors rush to the box. The theater is now a scene of panic, fear, and mourning. The war was over, but peace had no plan, and the violence had returned. News of Lincoln's assassination travels quickly. Bells toll in northern cities. Crowds gather in silence, stunned. Editorials and letters express disbelief, sorrow, and outrage. Soldiers in camps weep. Civilians struggle to comprehend that the man who fought to end the war and envision a unified nation is gone. A black soldier who fought at Fort Wagner reads about the assassination. Hope for reconstruction now feels fragile, uncertain, as the architect of reconciliation has been violently removed. Few people could imagine how this single act would shape the country for decades. Andrew Johnson assumes the presidency, and the vision of Lincoln faces new challenges. Southern resistance intensifies, freedmen's rights are contested. Reconstruction will be a long, painful, and incomplete process. The nation celebrates the end of battle, but enters a period of uncertainty and moral reckoning. Peace had no plan, and the nation would struggle to heal for generations. The war that began as a political struggle has transformed into a moral and human reckoning. Soldiers, civilians, families, and communities across the nation bear the weight of destruction. Fields, towns, and plantations lie in ruin. Lives are lost. Futures are uncertain. Letters from soldiers, diaries from civilians, and testimonies from freedmen show the immense personal cost. The end of the war does not erase the scars. It does not resolve the deep divisions. It only leaves a fragile, tense peace, punctuated by the ultimate act of violence, the assassination of Lincoln. And then, a single gunshot changed everything. The camera pans over Ford's Theater, now silent, empty, and haunting. The echoes of laughter, gunfire, and cries of grief hang in the air. The nation has survived the war, but the path forward is fraught with uncertainty, pain, and moral complexity. Zoom out to Washington, streets lined with mourners, the sound of bells, the faces of a grieving nation. Lincoln's dream of reconciliation is interrupted, yet his vision lingers in letters, speeches, and memories. The war was over, but the violence, the divisions, and the challenge of true peace would last far longer than anyone expected. At Ford's Theater, the ghost of history hangs over the box where Lincoln once sat. The war may have ended, but the price of freedom, unity, and moral reckoning continues. Every life lost, every town burned, every family displaced echoes forward into Reconstruction and into the very fabric of modern America. By killing the man who dreamed of healing, history reminded the nation that victory alone is never enough.